So happy to follow that poem. This one bears similar imagery, a similar theme. It's the last one I'll read. I'll leave it to you to decide whether it is about mortality or eternal life. This is a poem on his birthday. In the mustard seed sun, by full tilt river and switchback sea, where the cormorant scud, in his house on stilts high among beaks and palavers of birds, this sand-grain day in the bint bay's grave, he celebrates and spurns his driftwood 35th wind-turned age. Heron, spire, and spear. Under and around him go flounders, gulls, on their cold, dying trails, doing what they're told. Curlews aloud in the congered waves work at their ways to death. And the rhymer in the long-tongued room who tolls his birthday bell toils towards the ambush of his wounds. Herons, steeple-stemmed, bless. In the thistle downfall he sings towards anguish. Finches fly in the claw tracks of hawks on a seizing sky. Small fishes glide through wines and shells of drowned ship towns to pastures of otters. He in his slant-racking house and the hewn coils of his trade perceives herons walk in their shroud. The livelong river's robe of minnows wreathing around their prayer. And far at sea he knows who slaves to his crouched eternal end under a serpent cloud. Dolphins dive in their turtle dust, the rippled seals streak down to kill, and their own tide-daubing blood slides good in the sleek mouth. In a cavernous swung wave silence wept white Angelus knells, 35 bells sing struck on skull and scar where his loves lie wrecked, steered by the falling stars. And tomorrow weeps in a blind cage, terror will rage apart before chains break to a hammer flame, and love unbolts the dark. And freely he goes lost in the unknown famous light of great and fabulous dear God. Dark is a way and light is a place. Heaven that never was nor will be ever is always true. And in that brambled void, plenty as blackberries in the woods, the dead grow for his joy. There he might wander bare with the spirits of the horseshoe bay, or the stars' seashore dead, marrow of eagles, the roots of whales, and wishbones of wild geese, with blessed unborn God and his ghost, and every soul his priest, gold and chanter in young heaven's fold, be at cloud quaking peace. But dark is a long way. He on the earth of the night alone with all the living praise, who knows the rocketing winds will blow the bones out of the hills, and the scythed boulders bleed, and the last rage-shattered waters kick masts and fishes to the still quick stars, faithlessly unto him who is the light of old and air-shaped heaven where souls grow wild as horses in the foam. Oh, let me midlife mourn by the shrined and druid heron's vows, the voyage to ruin I must run. Yet, though I cry with tumble-down tongue, count my blessings aloud. 4 elements and 5 senses, and man a spirit in love, tangling through this spun slime, to his nimbus bell cool kingdom come, and the lost moonshine domes, and the sea that hides his secret selves deep in its black base bones, lulling of spheres in the seashore flesh. And this last blessing most, that the closer I move to death, one man through his sundered hulks, the louder the sun blooms, and the tusked ramshackling sea exults. And every wave of the way and gale I tackle, the whole world then, with more triumphant faith than ever was since the world was said, spins its morning of praise. I hear the bouncing hills grow locked and greener at berry brown fall, and the dewlarks sing taller this thunderclap spring, and how more spanned with angels ride the man-souled fiery islands. Oh, holier than their eyes, and my shining men no more alone, as I sail out to die.
Wow.
It's no secret that we are shaped by our parents. If you have lived your entire childhood with the same mother and father, you know what I'm talking about. You get your morals from them, you develop your ideas, policies, your politics, and of course your ways of raising your own children. All of us have said, you know, when I get to be a parent, I won't be that kind of parent. Fortunately, for me, my father was a real bastard. He was an abuser. He beat me, he beat my mother with regularity. And he was mean. But as I got to be an adult, those were not the qualities that I passed on to my own children. Partly because a good friend of mine, who as he grew older, kind of grew into his nickname of Baldy, introduced me to alcohol.
No.
An epiphany for myself. A light went off. It made it easier for me to deal with life and my relationships and the things I wrote. We had goldfish, and they circled round and round and on the bowl and the table near the heavy drapes covering the picture window. And my mother, always smiling, wanting us all to be happy, told me, "Be happy, Henry." And she was right. It's better to be happy if you can. But my father continued to beat her and me several times a week, while raging inside his 6'2" frame, because he couldn't understand what was attacking him from within. My mother, poor fish, wanting to be happy, beaten 2 or 3 times a week, told me, "Henry, smile." Why don't you ever smile? Well, and then she would smile. "You show me how." It was the saddest smile I ever saw. One day the goldfish died, all 5 of them. They floated on the water, on their sides, their eyes still open. When my father got home, he threw them to the cat, there on the kitchen floor. And we watched as my mother smiled. The genius of the crowd. A more reflective poem. Beware those quick to praise, for they need praise in return. Beware those who are quick to censor, for they are afraid of what they do not know. Beware those who seek constant crowds, for they are nothing alone. Beware the average man, the average woman. Beware their love. Their love is average, seeks average. But there is genius in their hatred. There is enough genius in their hatred to kill you, to kill anybody, not standing solitude. Not understanding solitude. They will attempt to destroy anything that differs from their own. Not being able to create art, they will not understand art. They will consider their failure as creators, only as a failure of the world, not being able to love fully. They will believe your love incomplete, and then they will hate you, and their hatred will be perfect. Like a shining diamond, like a knife, like a mountain, like a tiger, like hemlock. Their finest art. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mc-
Several times I participated in the It's About Time open mic series at the Ravina Eckstein Senior Center. A few years ago, I fell, had a hip replacement, and went to rehab. Visiting the doctor inspired, listening to my bones. When the doctor holds my upper arm in his two hands, he bows his head and listens as if he was waiting to hear the song of a rare endemic bird no one has seen for centuries. I start to speak, but he shakes his head, does not loosen his grip on my arm, turns his fingers around the curve of my skin, and listens again. I am afraid to clear my throat, my toes stay still. He must hear my heart where it beats, but he is listening to the sound of bones, the way NASA turns its telescopes far over our heads on Mauna Kea and hears the universe move. Rain falls so hard on the roof, I think it might break through. Imagine all those luminous drops that had been the backbone of a cloud, shattered and lying above the orthopedic surgeon's head and mine. Soon a puddle, then a trickle into the Wellacoola River. This will mend, he says, shows me two x-rays. In the waiting room is a saltwater tank. A zebra moray eel folds in one corner, its brown and white stripes. I think how it must have no bones at all. Or bones so light this eel can wind around its heaven all night when everyone has left, and dream the dreams of breaking into the world. Although I lived to age 90, my daughter Lori died from suicide in Juneau, where she lived for 33 years. 2.5 years afterwards, Poetry Northwest published my meditation on loss and grief. Sometimes a lake. To make up for the lost days, I go through each box as if it held the secret to vanishing. The way a cedar can sometimes hold a lake between its branches, the blue kept among the needles like a bead on many strings, turquoise the deep of lapis, until one step with your eyes takes the lake away. Here are your boots, gray with slush, not those you wore watching the bear's fur ripple like fireweed on the mountaintop. Here are 2 books about Kurt Cobain. The sky is almost too dark for me to see long wires, earphones, you have nothing to say, the box of rattling CDs. Here is a map you drew in ink of Valdez, the hospital that turned you away, post office, swimming pool for warm summer day that never came for you, road to the house through snow where Medicaid sent you. What were you thinking of? And this mug with its vine and birds, a gift from your brief and only marriage. I want it in the kitchen where I can stretch for it every morning, sip absence and remember. Although your sister, who never phoned you, will break it by accident 3 weeks from now. These boxes are almost empty, just air and losses. But here's a photo album where you're smiling with friends, your borderline disorder group, beside a tent, under a thick spruce. In the background, always a lake, always the one you kept trying to row across. Recognition by colleagues I appreciated. I was awarded 3 National Endowment for the Arts Creative Writing Fellowships, an Ingram Mural Writing Award, a grant from the Washington State Arts Commission, the Josephine Miles Memorial Award, and on, and the Pushcart Prize. I enjoyed residencies at Yaddo and Sarasota Springs and the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. 2 of my books, The Dark Path of Our Names and The Tiger Iris, won the Washington State Governor's Award. One of my memorials in 2017 was crassly commercial, also launching my last book, The Body That Follows Us. It included Shin Ishii's tricycle. I stepped down from the trolley that day in Hiroshima and walked by the river where the children had floated in flames, but I could not hear their cries of Misu, Misu, lost. I saw the rowboats tied to the shore waiting for the living, and the prefecture building as the autumn wind blew through the skeletal dome and every leaf lay scattered. I passed the heaps of flowers and burning candles to the doors that let me in to where the lights were dim. So many shadows, each display lit only by a row of flashlights. Power outage, someone said, and so I need not pay my yen. But paid another way, past fingers dripping skin, a lunchbox full of barley ash, the twisted tricycle Shin Ishii's mother dug from severed earth. She gave it so the boy would live in memory. Sculptured handlebars and pedals turned to black, all buried by the father who found him lying dead. I thought of myself at 5, pedaling my tricycle down the middle of Wilsonia Road, the rainbow shine of oil, the sun, my father's call, as he came swooping down to pull me back, shouting, "Don't ever do that again." Although, of course, I would. And, of course, we did. In 2018, Poetry Northwest began awarding a Swift Memorial Prize to women poets of the Northwest who are over age 65. You can still listen to me read 5 poems from Kona on a podcast from the Jack Straw Writers Program. Thanks to the Silverton Poetry Association for inviting me again and celebrating what would have been my 92nd birthday.
Sunday, next Sunday.
Second Sunday.
Okay, good to go. Thank you so much for coming. Couldn't happen without you.
Thank you.
Stay alive.
Thank you.